Can't legislate love, but we can name hate. Can't fix what you won't face at the gate. So we name it wars, tariffs, ice, wage gap, prison pipe, call each idol down and flip the light. This ain't about fame, it's about food. Not platforms, but power in the hands they exclude.
We won't stop till the whole county rise. We won't stop till the whole county rise. We won't stop till the whole county rise. This is our work until all thrive.
Can't legislate love, but we can name hate. Can't fix what you won't face at the gate. So we name it wars, tariffs, ice, wage gap, prison pipe, call each idol down and flip the light. This ain't about fame, it's about food. Not platforms, but power in the hands they exclude.
We won't stop till the whole county rise. We won't stop till the whole county rise. We won't stop till the whole county rise. This is our work until all thrive. Until all thrive. This is our work until all thrive. Until all thrive. This is our work until all thrive.
Can't legislate love, but we can name hate. Can't fix what you won't face at the gate. So we name it wars, tariffs, ice, wage gap, prison pipe, call each idol down and flip the light. This ain't about fame, it's about food. Not platforms, but power in the hands they exclude.
We won't stop till the whole county rise. We won't stop till the whole county rise. We won't stop till the whole county rise. This is our work until all thrive. Until all thrive. This is our work until all thrive. Until all thrive. This is our work until all thrive.
Can't legislate love, but we can name hate. Can't fix what you won't face at the gate. So we name it wars, tariffs, ice, wage gap, prison pipe, call each idol down and flip the light. This ain't about fame, it's about food. Not platforms, but power in the hands they exclude.
We won't stop till the whole county rise. We won't stop till the whole county rise. We won't stop till the whole county rise. This is our work until all thrive. Until all thrive. This is our work until all thrive. Until all thrive. This is our work until all thrive.
Can't legislate love, but we can name hate. Can't fix what you won't face at the gate.
Well, I'm back, everybody. Finally. Apologize for that for a few minutes. I was trying to make sure I was indeed live. Thought I was posting directly to Facebook, but it's actually a link through my YouTube. And so if you are out there, shout out that you are out there. I'm glad that you are here. I'm James Gailliard. Welcome Until All Thrive. I've taken a little bit of a hiatus and now I'm back on. I think it's the severity of the moment that has me back on. And well, I miss it. But I shared this with my congregation. The work that's attached to the research to come on air every week is significant. And so I do just about an hour show. I really want to do a little longer than that, but I'll probably do, not quite an hour show. And, it's about 4 hours of me putting together research to get ready to do the show. So it takes a minute. So welcome. I'm glad you're here. Would you share this with someone? I'm James Gailliard. I'm your host on Until All Thrive. Shout me out. Let folk know that we're on. I'm going to do my best to come on once a week, probably on Mondays before we get to the 6 o'clock hour. So our folk that are on their way to wellness at the point, I won't interfere with that. Today, I want to talk about the SAVE Act, the first half of the show. And then the second half of the show, I want to talk about some primary races that I think we should all be talking about. And so those are the things that we're going to cover today, the SAVE Act, and then some primary races. If there's a race you'd like me to weigh in on or you'd like me to talk about, please go ahead and let me know that, okay? So let's jump in. I want to talk about the SAVE Act. It is in the Congress. I think people oftentimes don't recognize the severity of many of these bills, and I just want us to be more knowledgeable and more aware. I'm concerned about the complacency of the people, or what appears to be, from my perspective anyway, the complacency of the people. And a good example for me is the SAVE Act, because oftentimes we don't know what's in legislation. And that's the whole point of the show. I try to bring together the triangle of pastoral leadership, civic engagement, and just leadership principles in general. The SAVE Act is literally SAVE, S-A-V-E, is an acrostic. It stands for Safeguard American Voter Eligibility. Safeguard American Voter Eligibility. Now, first of all, let me just give you legislation 101. They always make bills sound, all of us do it, but the bills always sound so super amazing. The Patriot Act and the Parental Choice Act and the Save Our Family Act, or whatever the case is, right? And so the SAVE Act is no different. It sounds very reasonable. Safeguard American Voter Eligibility. Who wouldn't safeguard elections? So let's dig into it a little bit, and let's find out what it really does, and let's talk a little bit about why we need to oppose it. First of all, let's be mindful of what happens today. What happens today is when you and I register to vote, we sign a form. And we sign a form that basically says, I am a United States citizen, and my signature down swears this. And if I'm not a United States citizen, I recognize I have perjured myself. Now, if I perjure myself because I claim I'm a United States citizen and I'm not, I go to jail. There's already a federal law for this. And guess what? It works really well, right? The law works great. And the reality of it is non-citizen voting is already a federal crime. So when I was in the General Assembly, we referred to this as a solution in search of a problem. So they have authored a solution, but the reality of it is there's no problem. Can we put our thinking caps on for just a moment? If we put our thinking caps on for just a moment, we would recognize that we already have, at least on a good election cycle, 35%, anywhere from 35 to 60% of the people don't vote at all. So just intuitively speaking, it's a little strange that we're passing legislation because people that shouldn't be voting are, when we already have the data that suggests the people that should be voting are not. So you're telling me we need legislation for the people that shouldn't be voting but are, yet all the data says that there are people who should be voting and are not. So just intuitively speaking, something's wrong with the bill. So let's kind of process it a little bit. And so because the way we already do things federally is not good enough, You can't just swear you're a United States citizen. Now, under the SAVE Act, you have to prove it. Okay, so reasonable enough. I need to prove that I'm a United States citizen. So I can't do it by mail in. I have got to walk in, and I got to bring certain documents. But I can't just bring any documents. I have to bring certain documents to prove it. Okay, so I need a U.S. passport. Now, let's park here for just one moment. You've heard poll tax, right? The poll tax was abolished in the 24th Amendment, and I'm trying to remember what the data was now. I'll find it in a second. The 24th Amendment basically said that you can't charge people to vote. I'm just oversimplifying it, right? And so there were all types of mechanisms set up to keep people from voting, particularly people that were of low wealth, very little limited income. To keep them from participating in the process, they created a poll tax. If we were extrapolate the poll tax into $2026, the poll tax in 2026 would have been $10.64. Okay? Now let's go back to what I was about to say. The poll tax in today's economy would be a little bit over $10. Now, in order for me to vote under the SAVE Act, I need certain documentation. And one of the documentations that I need is a U.S. passport. A U.S. passport costs $165. So now I've got a poll tax that is what? 10 times, 12 times, 13 times higher than the poll tax was when we had the 24th Amendment. So you need a passport. If you don't already have a passport, you need a real ID. I've been flying a lot lately, and I'm amazed by how many people don't have real ID, and they have to pay like $45 charge. I want to say that's what I heard when I was at the TSA line. And so a lot of people don't have real ID. And or I need a birth certificate plus a photo ID. Now, I know for many of us that doesn't sound unreasonable. And I'm probably going to get to this later on in the show. For those of you just tuning in, this is James Gailliard, and I'm your host of Until All Thrive. And today we're talking about the SAVE Act in the first segment of the show. And then the second segment of the show, I'm going to go through some pivotal primary races because tomorrow's election day. If you've already voted, go ahead and type in, I've already voted. And so the SAVE Act, so I need a U.S. passport. U.S. passport costs more than what the poll tax would be if we extrapolated the amount to today. Or I need a real ID with a certain type of photo ID, a birth certificate rather, and a photo ID. You're saying, okay, that's not unreasonable. But just what I want us to realize, there are so many older saints or older members of our community that when they were born, they didn't go to a hospital. They had midwives. And particularly when you looking at people that are 80, 90, 100 years old, a lot of times the midwives were not able to file the proper paperwork. So you have lots of older people who to this day can't get a birth certificate because one was never filed for them. And I know that's really foreign for us, that we don't understand that reality, but that's the reality of it. And so you need a birth certificate and a photo ID, and the birth certificate has to meet like 7 specific requirements. And we know the way birth certificates are filed county by county, state by state can be very, very different, particularly ones, as I said, 70, 80, 90 years old. Both your names have to be, your name has to be on both documents that you submit, and the names have to match. If they don't match, end of game, there's nothing else you can do. The bill also requires that anyone who registers by mail has to come in person to show their documents. So mail registration and online registration for all practical purposes is over with under the SAVE Act. Keep in mind, folks, the objective here is not to make elections fair or free. The objective is to keep as many people from the voting process as possible. Because the truth of the matter is when large groups of United States citizens vote, they by and large do not vote for Republican candidates as the nation. So let's talk about what this means locally for us. There's about 6,000 non-citizens in the counties that I represent or will represent in Senate District 11, Nash, Franklin, and Vance. That's about 3% of the population, 3%. So 3% of everyone in Senate District 11 are not U.S. citizens. So we're now creating a whole bill that has nothing to do with 97% of the people. Like, we know that 97% of the people are not the targeted issue that they claim, which is keeping non-citizens from voting. I can tell you, I've been in the legislature before. It's not a whole lot of bills running around that impact only 3% of the people, unless you're really trying to do something wayward, untoward, and unethical. Now, let's talk about the implications of the SAVE Act for the female population, because I think a lot of times people don't put these things together. The SAVE Act has a name matching requirement. And as I said, your birth certificate has to match your current ID. Now, that seems simple, but the reality of it is 84% of women who get married take their husband's last name. Are y'all following me? Y'all tracking me? And so when they change their name, their birth certificate doesn't change. So when you get married, your birth certificate still says who you were born as. That's why we refer to it as the maiden name, right? So my birth certificate will still have the maiden name. My driver's license or whatever will have a potential married name. So as I'm speaking to you today on Until All Thrive podcast, 69 million American women have a birth certificate that does not match their current legal name. 69 million women have a birth certificate that doesn't match their current legal name. The Brennan Center, which is a think tank, found that only 48% of voting age women have a birth certificate that even matches. So over half of all women do not have the matching required documentation. Now, here's the part that I think people are not paying attention to that I want us to pay attention to, which I think is really interesting, because a lot of times when we start talking about things, we talk about it strictly from a lens of race. And a lot of times I do, because so many of these things are racially targeted. But what I want us to recognize is a bill like this, it negatively impacts Republican married women. So this is not just a bill going after minorities and going after non-citizens. The SAVE Act is going after married Republican women. Let me be more specific. They're going after women. Do I need to remind the ladies out there that it was 1974, I want to say, when you no longer needed your husband's approval or signature or a male in your family's signature in order for you to open up a bank account, get a line of credit, or get a credit card? 1974. Did you hear me? When we start thinking about the Trump administration, and let me connect some dots here. When I say the Trump administration, I'm referring to every elected Republican in the North Carolina General Assembly. I'm specifically referring to Senator Phil Berger, Representative Dustin Hall. I'm referring to Representative Alan Chester. I'm referring to Senator Lisa Barnes. The reason I'm referring to them is because when they passed the bill, when they bent over for Donald Trump to pass the bill to redistrict the 1st Congressional District that Don Davis is in, they did so that Trump policies could continue in effect. So they are endorsers of this. Don't ever think that there's a detachment between what goes on federally. There should be, and there is in some situations, but the world we're living in today, we have a nationalized Republican Party. So we don't just have local candidates. We don't just have state representatives and senators. We have people that are an appendage or an extension to Donald Trump. So when you start hearing me say these things about the SAVE Act, don't think for a moment that our local representation is detached from this, because they're not. So let's talk a little bit about this for a moment, a little bit further about this. So women now, married women under the SAVE Act, have a mixed match of identification. They have a birth certificate that says one thing, and they have ID that says another thing. So they've got a couple choices. They can get a new passport. That's going to cost them $165. That's another poll tax. They need this documentation in order to vote. This is in direct prohibition, directly against the 24th Amendment, which specifically abolishes poll tax. So to fix the mixed match, they have to get a new passport, which is $165, or they have to replace their naturalization certificate if they're a naturalized citizen. If you have to replace your naturalization certificate, if you're a naturalized citizen, the cost is $500. So now you have a higher poll tax, and none of it is reimbursed. And this is what I also want to say that it's important. None of this is provided, no assistance for this is being provided by the government. Part of my issue with, it's an unfunded mandate. And so we're basically and this is passes the United States Representatives, House of Representatives, now in the Senate. They basically have passed legislation that has established a new poll tax in violation of the 24th Amendment that will negatively impact minorities, older citizens, and married women. Who would sign up for that? Even as a man, if it didn't negatively impact me because I don't have ID in different names, I have daughters. Right? I have daughters, y'all, and I have granddaughters. So I'm going to talk to men for a moment. At some point, we have to indeed be protectors. At some point, we have to indeed be patriarchs. I have women in my church, in my family, that this negatively impacts. And so that's what the SAVE Act is. Now, let's talk a little bit about what it means, for our community, kind of what the status of it is. What does all of this mean for our community? Because a lot of times we're saying, well, this is federal. What does this really mean for Senate District 11, Pastor? Well, let me bring it home. Because for some of you, it's abstract. So in Vance County, let's talk about Vance County first. In Vance County, it's 52% African-American. The median household is $46,000. The poverty rate is 20%. Some people say it's even 23%. The child poverty rate is 36%. They are limited access to DMV facilities, limited public transportation. A significant portion of the population is elderly. Elderly residents who were born at home, delivered by midwives during an era when white-run county offices did not always file birth records for black babies. That's just the truth of the matter. So we are putting a mandate upon people who already are in poverty, who already have been disenfranchised by the system, who already may not have access to. I can't produce for you a birth certificate that was never generated to begin with. These are people that gave their lives, that sacrificed so much so that we could have what we have. And so we have people who, through no fault of their own, many of whom are elderly, simply don't have a birth certificate that even exists. And I don't care if you have $1 billion, you can't produce something that doesn't exist. So basically, the SAVE Act would say to that elderly population, you will never vote in this country again. So let's talk about Nash County. Nash County, 42% black. Limited DMV resources. People can't be running to DMV all the time. Limited transit. People need to go to North Carolina Vital Records in Raleigh to get a certified birth certificate. It's an hour away. You have to be able to get to Raleigh. They only accept you by appointment only. And so, people are telling me that it could be once you get the appointment, you're looking at 100 days of business processing time for a mail request. Franklin County, 25% African-American, a couple DMVs. They've got medical transit that's available Monday through Wednesdays only, 10% poverty rate, 4,000 locations in the county that still have no reliable broadband, meaning online document requests aren't even a real option for many families. And so all I'm trying to get us to see is that the SAVE Act is a problem, okay? It is a problem. And let's put faces to these names, because when we talk about statistics, they don't bleed, but people bleed. So in North Carolina, we look at people that, again, are older, people that don't have an extra $100 and some dollars. And if we're going to place ID requirements on people to vote, then at a minimum, we need to budget to make sure everyone has access to that ID. That does not feel unreasonable to me. And let me just say this. When all the people, I'm sick of this whole, well, you can't have an ID without, you need an ID to drive, you need an ID to do this, you need an ID to do that. None of those are required rights constitutionally. So if there is a constitutional right I've been given, if you're going to require that I have ID to access that right, that at a minimum, funding needs to be available for that ID to be had. So what I will say is that I think it doesn't move. For those of you that are new to the show, this is James Gailliard. This is Until All Thrive. I'm talking about the SAVE Act, the problem with the SAVE Act, why we need to advocate against the SAVE Act. It passed the House 218 to 213. Listen, pull the record of your U.S. congressman here in North Carolina. With a 218, 213 vote, I didn't pull the votes, but I'm willing to bet everything I own that our Democratic delegation voted against it and our Republican delegation voted for it. And I'm going to double check that so when I come back on the show, I can confirm that. And so 5 votes is not a lot out of 435. It is not a lot of votes at all, which is the number of votes that we have in the U.S. House of Representatives. It is now headed to the Senate, or in the Senate. It needs 60 votes to get through the Senate. Republicans hold 53 seats. I see no way that this moves. But this is why elections matter, so that we can have people in office that represent our best interests and are willing to do what's right for all people. That's my campaign logo, Until All Thrive motto. Because at the end of the day, that's all I think any of us really want. We want everyone thriving. When you see the SAVE Act, when you see that a poll tax has now been legislated, when you see that women now are jumping through hoops to vote even if they can't. Can I tell you this one? Signature verification. So, and I don't know about you. Y'all already know I have the worst penmanship. And I literally can write my signature and it don't even look like my signature. And because I'm just depending on the mood I am, especially if my hand's a little shaky, haven't eaten yet. But sometimes, man, I'm rushing. Then if I have to sign my name a lot, like on new member certificates or something like that, man, it really gets out of whack. Here's what I want you to hear. A third party. You can literally show up to vote under the SAVE Act, and third party can you can sign your name, and then they could look at your ID and look at your signature and say, nope, that's not your signature. That's not you. You can't vote. So when you hear this nonsense, elderly people, I'm sorry, that sounded disrespectful. Elderly people not able to vote again, perhaps because their birth certificate was never filed in their county, because their midwife who gave birth to them was not able to, or who delivered them was not able to because the baby was of color. Married women, black women and white women, Democratic women and Republican women, when you see the nonsense of something like the SAVE Act, and when you recognize that only a small percentage of people are even non-U.S. citizens, and when you consider the fact that already the average person is not voting, so we clearly don't have a voter fraud issue in this nation. We have a voter disengagement issue. We don't have nobody's voting twice, y'all. And nobody who shouldn't be voting is voting. We have a lack of voting. So when you see nonsense like this, don't just equate it to Donald Trump. Equate it to Lisa Barnes, equate it to Alan Chesser, equate it to elected officials in North Carolina who redistricted the 1st Congressional District because, according to them, They wanted to uphold the rules, the standard, the agenda of Donald Trump. Okay? So that's the first thing I want to talk about is SAVE Act. Let me just take one quick moment of break, and I won't be long at all. Then I'm going to come back and talk about whatever several prominent, I think, primary races. Tomorrow's election day. I want to encourage everybody to get out the vote. This is James Gailliard, Until All Thrive. Go ahead and share this. I'll be right back in about 60 seconds.
Can't legislate love, but we can name hate. Can't fix what you won't face at the gate. So we name it wars, tariffs, ice, wage gap, prison pipe, call each idol down and flip the light. This ain't about fame, it's about food. Not platforms, but power in the hands they exclude.
We won't stop till the whole county rise. We won't stop till the whole county rise. We won't stop till the whole county rise. This is our work until all thrive.
Can't legislate love, but we can name hate. Can't fix what you won't face at the gate. So we name it wars, tariffs, ice, wage gap, prison pipe, call each idol down and flip the light. This ain't about fame, it's about food. Not platforms, but power in the hands they exclude.
We won't stop till the whole county rise. We won't stop till the whole county rise. We won't stop till the whole county rise. This is our work until all.
All righty, let's wrap it on up. Let's jump back in. Check out some of the comments and everything. It took me a moment to get to them. And so I'll take a look at those. Please go ahead and weigh in. I see some people that are watching. Grateful that you are doing that. So y'all clear that SAVE Act is a problem. I hope I'm glad you're clear. Okay, let me jump in on some primary races. First of all, if you've not voted, shame on you. I said to our congregation, I thought it was pretty good. I shared to our congregation yesterday at Word Tabernacle Church. I said, when your favorite artist goes on tour and tickets go on sale, who do you know that waits until the day of the show to show up at the box office to get a ticket? Most people, when your favorite art, I know people who stand in line. I know people who have notifications set. When's the last time you tried to get a walk-in same-day appointment with your primary care physician? When's the last day? Where my sister's at? When's the last day you tried to get your due done? Same-day appointment, no advance. You're just going to call your hairdresser and be like, you know what? Give me the full-blown, twist the whole 9 yards, hook me up. When's the last time we tried to do that? We don't, because we know we live in a society where, generally speaking, same-day stuff is just not what we do. If I make an appointment for my hair, I make an appointment for go to a show, I make an appointment to do other things that I care about, how are we all the way past 10 days of early voting, and I have people listening to me right now that didn't vote? It's not all right, folk. Anything could happen to you tomorrow, and then your vote would have been lost. And so I want us to be honest and call it for what it is, which is just apathy. It is indifference. And I want us to become educated and mature beyond that, where we recognize this really matters. And I'm going to be talking more and more about that as we move forward, okay? So let's talk about primaries real quick. Now, real thing, let me just give you a quick primer on the primaries, okay? Primer on the primaries is you either are unaffiliated voter, a Democratic voter, a Republican voter. If you are a Democrat or Republican voter, you have to take a Democratic ballot or Republican ballot. If you are an unaffiliated voter, When you get there, they will say, would you like a Democratic ballot or would you like a Republican ballot? You get a chance to choose, okay? I personally think if I could change some things around the election process, I think anybody should just be able to vote in the primaries, personally, like whoever you want to vote for. And so if you just give me whatever, Democratic ballot, Republican ballot, whatever, but general election, but a little different. But in primaries, I think if we did primaries different, we'd have better candidates in general election. Roy Cooper and Michael Wiley are what they call presumptive nominees. I'm starting at the top of the ticket and working my way down. That's the way it's going to look in November. The U.S. Senate race is going to be at the top of the ticket, or the top of the ballot, I should say, because there's no presidential race. So top of the ballot is going to be Roy Cooper. And so he's what's called a presumptive nominee. He's not the nominee. It's presumed he will be the nominee. The same way it is presumed that Whatley will be the nominee. And so this is the seat that is open because of Tom Tillis's retirement. He is not running for re-election. And it is likely that it will be between Roy Cooper and Michael Whatley. So you're going to see Roy Cooper's name and then, I don't know, I don't have my ballot in front of me, 4 or 5 other names, one of which most of us know. And so obviously Roy Cooper is the person you should vote for regarding that. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that because this is not fun talking about that kind of stuff. The first congressional district will be interesting. Don Davis does not have an issue, but there are, I think, 4 or 5 Republicans that want to vie against him in November. And so for those of us who have, or those of you, because I'm a Democrat, for those of you that have unaffiliated and ask for a Republican ballot, you will see several names. Laurie Buckhout is on that Republican ballot. State Senator Bobby Hannick. I actually served with him in the State House. Carteret County Sheriff Asa Buck. So it's going to be very interesting. Keep me put a pin in that around these sheriffs running for office. It's going to be very interesting how that shakes out. I don't really know who comes out of that race. It's going to be very interesting. Whoever it is, Don Davis can beat them. And we're going to certainly work as hard as we can to make sure that Don Davis does come out of it. Here's the interesting thing. I'm talking about in November now. But here's the interesting thing about primaries. When you've got like 5 candidates, there's for this race, there's a 30% threshold. So you've got, 4 candidates. You got these candidates who are there, 5 candidates. You have 5 candidates. There's a 30% required threshold in order to win outright. So there's a real possibility that it goes to a runoff. The runoff is May 12th. The turnout is even worse on the runoff. And so none of the 5 have a clear, dominant coalition, which means the vote could split in enough directions to prevent anyone from getting the 30%. On the Democratic side, Don Davis is running for re-election despite the longer odds that the new map creates. I'm going to say this in the microphone constantly now until November. Whatever lines they have redrawn, we're going to win on those lines. And Don Davis is going to win this re-election because we're going to turn out voting precinct by precinct. If you don't hear me say anything else, this is what I would ask my listeners to do. Adopt a precinct. 1 voter precinct. It can be the voter precinct you vote in. And say, I'm going to do everything I can to help voter turnout in this 1 precinct. I would highly encourage everyone to do that. That's what's going to win these races, and that's what's going to make the difference. Okay, let me move on. I'm going to get local, so just hang in there for a minute, okay? I'm going to get local in a second. Phil Berger and Sam Page. I've been talking about this race for a while. The most powerful, in my opinion, the most powerful senator in the state is Senator Phil Berger. He leads the Senate. He is the #1 fundraiser for the Senate. Y'all, he is in the primary of his life. He has been in the General Assembly like 25 years. He has a son who is a county commissioner. He has another son who's on the U.S. Supreme Court. It is a very powerful family, and it is a very unethical, immoral family. And most things bad in this state that have happened, you can give Phil Berger credit for having something to do with it. Let me tell you why I'm talking about this race. If you live in Guilford County, I would highly recommend paying attention to this race. This race, or Rockingham County as well. So his Senate district is Rockingham County and Guilford County. Sam Page was sheriff for like 25, 6, 7 years, something crazy. Very popular, very well known, very liked in Rockingham County. He is primarying Phil Berger. I love the fact that we are seeing so many primaries in some situations. Let me talk a little bit about that. If you are an incumbent means you're already in office, and you are being primaried, it is likely because you have really highly offended some people you should not have highly offended. Phil Berger has been one of the most corrupt, immoral, unethical leaders we've had in North Carolina history. If you have friends that live in Guilford County that are unaffiliated and they still haven't voted, ask them that when they get to the voting location tomorrow to ask for a Republican ballot and to vote for Sam Page against Phil Berger. And then the Democrat that we're going to run in November would run against a person who is not an incumbent. And not only do we have an opportunity to take that seat, at a minimum, we have an opportunity to minimize the corruption that we've seen. And it changes the calculus because he's the number one fundraiser in the Senate. And because he's never really been challenged, all the money he raises, he then donates or gives to the most competitive races. So when you take out the big fundraiser, now there's no longer money available for the competitive races. Now that there's no longer outside money available for the competitive races, it evens the playing field for those races. So this race, I cannot wait. Like, I literally will be staying up tomorrow night watching the results of this because I'm excited beyond measure about the potential of this race. I think Phil Berger has a real chance of losing. I mean, he has been the primary architect of legislation that's been so damaging to Eastern North Carolina. Education funding cuts, the delay of Medicaid expansion, the voucher program that's draining public school resources. Y'all hear me. If Phil Berger loses, it changes the power dynamics in Raleigh in a way that we have not seen in generations. You know me, I'm not afraid to call it like it is. I think it is not smart that the Democratic Party has stayed out of this race. We have not been nearly aggressive. The party as a whole unit, the party was just with me at an event yesterday, but I'm going to call it straight. We have a real opportunity to take out Phil Berger, and we're not taking advantage of it. We should be talking to C4s. We should be talking to C3s on voter education and engagement. We should be having conversations with unaffiliated voters, even as Democrats, telling them how they could wield influence to make North Carolina better, literally by tomorrow night. It would be a game changer, and we are not being nearly aggressive enough about it. And so I think it's a loss. I think as Dems, we just don't know how to play chess, and I think it's hurting us again. And so this is a great opportunity. Especially if this race is close, I'm going to blame Democrats for not being more engaged. So there's another race I want to talk about that I want to pay attention to because it has some interesting dynamics, even within the Black community with older versus younger voters. And Valerie Foushee, this is a U.S. congressional race in Durham. Valerie Foushee, this is the 4th congressional district. I've talked a little bit about the 1st. That's Don Davis. I'll tell you who's going to run there. The 3rd, I'll get to the 3rd in a minute. That's like Greenville and all that stuff. I may go over just a little bit because I know y'all are waiting to get to some of our local races. But I'm trying to get you to see the bigger political landscape because I want us to become more versed in the broadband political landscape. Valerie Fouché is really political elite. I served with her when she was in the state Senate. I was in the state House. Love Valerie Fouché. She chairs the North Carolina Black Alliance, which is the umbrella organization of all Black elected officials. So if you are a Black elected official in any capacity, federal, statewide, state rep, state house, county commissioner, city council, mayor, school board, I mean, you name it, you are automatically a part of the North Carolina Black Alliance. And so it is the umbrella organization of all Black elected officials. She chairs that. So Valerie Fouché, and I'll try to find something that I read up on her that I thought was an interesting way of communicating it. She's being challenged by a far, far left Muslim young lady, Nida Alam, and it could be Nida Alam, so I apologize if I'm mispronouncing her name. I'm not sure. She is a Durham County commissioner. She is the first Muslim woman elected to office in North Carolina. She ran against her also in 2022, unsuccessfully. Fouché won it 46 to 37, 46%, 37%. I think it's going to be closer. Interesting politics. Bernie Sanders showed up for Nida Alam for a fundraiser for her. Let me tell you why this race is important. There's something that has been afoot for a while in places like Durham that we oftentimes don't talk about. Within the Democratic Party, there is a far, far left progressive element that many of the mainstream moderate Dems like myself don't fully espouse, accept, weigh in on some of the far left extremism. I personally think the problem with American politics is the extreme far left and extreme far right. I think and this is why it's so important for large turnout at primary time, because if you have an extreme candidate like Nida Alam, and a more moderate Democrat candidate like a Valerie Fouché, if you have high turnout, you're more likely to turn out that more moderate voter, that more moderate official. When the general election comes, if you have a moderate Dem and a moderate Republican, people are much happier. It is when we get these extreme people that we are forced to have to choose between that makes the general election so difficult for many of us. And so this is going to be interesting because there is a movement afoot, because most of the far left, extreme progressives are white. I mean, there's some that are Black, but many of them are white. And so this is really an attempt to wrestle away Black political power in Durham. That's how I interpret this race. And so even though she's a Muslim woman, she identifies most with a far left element that is largely white. I can tell you, even amongst us who are Dems, we don't see eye to eye on a lot of things, on some things. And sometimes our white counterpart, even though they're also Democrat, they don't oftentimes come to our rescue to the extent that I would like to have seen. I've seen big fights about trying to get money at A&T compared to the money that NC State got, and how some of our colleagues weren't real vocal about that conversation. And so that's going to be an interesting race. Will be interesting to see what the outcome is tomorrow. I will be up late with my popcorn and my water, because this is Lent, watching the results. Let's get home. Let's come home. I want to talk to my Edgecombe County folk. Representative Shelley Willingham, House District, what is that, 23? What was it 4? I always get confused. I need to look that up real quick. I always get 23 and 24 confused. One's Wilson. I think 23 is Shelley in Edgecombe County. Who out there knows? Help me out. So let me I'm gonna call it out. If you live in Edgecombe County, in my opinion, you should be voting for Patricia Smith who is primarying against Shelley Willingham. Shelley Willingham's vote record has been deplorable. And I want to kill a demon. I don't care that sometimes you vote with Republicans. So I need y'all to hear that. That's not the issue here. When I was in the General Assembly, there were times that I had to peel off away from the team. Shelley Willingham is in a predominantly African-American, predominantly Democratic district, one of the poorest Democratic districts. There's no reason for him to peel off on certain votes. There's no reason other than just selling out. And all that, I'm bringing stuff back to the district. Save that. Let me tell you why I say save that. The best way to bring something back home to the district is to stick with the team and to negotiate as a unit. When people peel off, they deal their own thing, cut their own side back deals. They are in the long run hurting their constituent base because they are detaching them from the team. The best way to get something back at home is to stick with the team. His voting record is horrible. It is horrible. That is why he has a primary opponent in Patricia Smith. And so if you are in Edgecombe County and you have not voted, you should be voting for Patricia Smith. This James Gailliard, I'm going to say it in the microphone because I have served with the man. I don't dislike him. I don't disrespect him. But his voting record does not properly represent the best interest of people that live in Edgecombe County, period, dot. And so I'm looking up real quick because I should know, but I don't know, or at least I'm forgetting. So give me 1 second. I'm going to tell y'all exactly. Willingham. Shelley Willingham. All right, let me see. House District 23. So if you are in Edgecombe County, Martin County, House District 23, you have a primary race with Shelley Willingham and Patricia Smith. I think Patricia Smith is the better candidate. It's interesting. Many of us have great regard for G.K. Butterfield, former Congressman G.K. Butterfield. Former Congressman G.K. Butterfield endorsed. Well, this is a different race, not the race for Shelley Willingham, but it's another race I'm going to talk about. I think it's really important. Governor Josh Stein has weighed in on this. It's been too much overriding of vetoes. And there's just some peeling off that you don't need to do. There's no way you should be voting for opportunity scholarships in Edgecombe County. No way. As much as the public school system in Edgecombe County is struggling, what? Yeah, absolutely not. Okay, so y'all heard me, right? Put the message out. Let me talk about Rodney Pierce. Rodney Pierce is next up on my list. I'm looking up to see what his district is. I should know off the top of my head, but I can't keep all this stuff straight. He was with us yesterday at the church. I've attended his fundraisers. And Rodney Pierce, North Carolina. Rodney Pierce, 27th district. For those of you that are in the 27th district, you have a primary race with your incumbent, who is State Rep Rodney Pierce. I would, again, want to encourage you, for those of you that are trying to look at the dynamics of it, Roanoke Rapids area, Warren County area, other areas, Rodney Pierce has done a great job. And he defeated Michael Ray, who was a longstanding white Democrat who really was a Republican. I told the folk yesterday, and I'm going to say it again because I'm sure some of you weren't at the event. When I was a freshman in the State House, Michael Ray walked up to me, and this is what he said. I don't think blacks and whites should have babies together. Now, mind you, he's talking to a biracial man. That is the degree of racism in this man representing a predominantly African-American district. He's bought votes for years. He has had people wrapped around his finger. He has been unethical and has spent more time cutting back deals with Republicans to the detriment of Roanoke Rapid area and District 27. Please, please, please vote for Rodney Pierce. He is doing an outstanding job. He should be reelected. This is why turnout is so important. We need to turn out everyone we can in his district. Let me shout out. Let me look it up real fast while I have y'all, so we know exactly what the counties are for the 27th district, because I want to make sure I'm covering all these counties the correct way. Let me just Google it real quick. What counties are in House District? I'm fat fingering this. 27 North NC. Let me see if that pops up just like that real quick for me. Halifax, Northampton, and Warren counties. If you have family in Halifax, Northampton, or Warren counties, would you call them, please? Would you ask them if they have voted? And if they have not, would you ask them, please vote for Rodney Pierce, send him back to the North Carolina General Assembly? All righty. Let me see. What haven't I covered? We have another interesting House race. I'm going to close on this one. I think that's everything I really need. I mean, I probably other stuff I should cover, but I'm out of time. So let me just say one final thing. There's another interesting. Oh, I'm sorry. There's a county commissioner race with former district court Judge Quentin Sumner. Won't say the other two people that that's opposing him. There's no question that Judge Quentin Sumner should be elected into that county commissioner seat. So if you see Quentin Sumner's name on your ballot for county commissioner, I want to really encourage you around that vote. We have a member, Erica Mitchell, who has run for county commissioner. I want to shout out everybody who has run for county commissioner and who has run for office in general. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for running, and just want to encourage you to vote for those candidates. You see there's one final Nash County race, House race. Lorenzo Wilkins narrowly lost to Alan Chester. This is my old seat. However, he has a primary opponent in Harris Walker. Whenever you see people that have a primary opponent, it's a reason, y'all. It is a reason. Now, I don't know all the details of the reason of why he has a primary opponent, but he does. What's interesting is that Harris Walker has been endorsed by G.K. Butterfield. What is also interesting is that the party has been weighing in heavily on Harris Walker's favor. And so I'm in an awkward position with this race because I need both Harris Walker voters and Lorenzo Wilkins voters to vote for me for the Senate. I don't have that situation with Rodney Pierce's race. I don't have that situation with Shelley Willingham's race. I do have that situation with their race. What I will say to you is that people have been endorsing Harris Walker. I do believe whoever wins that we should be winning House District 25. Alan Chester should never represent us after December 31st. So I want to encourage you to weigh in on that race. You have two options. A person who narrowly lost and a person that has been very aggressive, been endorsed by several people in this race that are high-profile people. I think because this is the thing I want us to think about. The question in primaries are often this: who is the person most likely to win in the general election? So we have to take the emotion out of it. That's why I appreciate G.K. Butterfield's endorsement of Harris Walker, because he's like, look, this is not about race. I think he has the best chance to win in the general election. So when you're thinking about who you're voting for, don't let race and friendship and all of that be the ultimate driver. The ultimate driver is who can win this thing. Let me tell you where you see this. You see this in Texas right now with Jasmine Crockett and James Tallarico. You know, I love the fact that they have two such strong candidates. I personally think, knowing what I know about the Texas electorate, I think James Tallarico is more likely to have a better chance in the general election. So it's going to be interesting. I can't wait to see the outcome of that as well. Shout out Freddie Haynes, who's running as well. I think he's going to do fine. And once he gets through this primary in Texas, he's going to wind up going to Congress. I think that's everything. Raymond Smith, 3rd Congressional District. He has an opponent. I forget her name. Want to encourage you, if you are in the Greenville area, if you are in the 3rd Congressional District, trying to see if I can find her name real quick. If you are in the 3rd Congressional District, I want to encourage you to vote for Raymond Smith. Raymond Smith and I were seatmates in the North Carolina General Assembly. He is a native of that area. He has been in the political machinery for a while. He knows his way around. He's smart. He's a military vet. He'll do an outstanding job. He can beat Greg Murphy, who's a Republican incumbent. All of us served in the state house together, so Raymond knows his way around this race. And when they redrew the 1st Congressional District, they had to touch the 3rd Congressional District, which means that the 3rd is now more competitive for Democrats. So if you have friends in Greenville, make sure they're going out to vote. Hey, listen, y'all, I'm out of time. And so thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I'm James Gailliard. This show is called Until All Thrive. I'm going to do my best to bring you content every single week so that we can become more politically engaged, more aware of the things that most impact us. If you have something that you'd like me to talk about, would you go ahead and drop it in the chat, share it with me, inbox me, email me, james@jamesgailliard.com. I'm also running for office as well. You can find out all about my race at jamesgailliard.com. This is Until All Thrive. We'll be back next week with a new segment. Y'all have an outstanding day. And please, above all else, make sure you vote on Election Day tomorrow. If you've already voted, find you 3 people that have not voted and encourage them to vote. I'm out. Have a great night.
Can't legislate love, but we can name hate. Can't fix what you won't face at the gate. So we name it wars, tariffs, ice, wage gap, prison pipe, call each idol down and flip the light. This ain't about fame, it's about food. Not platforms, but power in the hands they exclude.
We won't stop till the whole county rises.